Welcome to the show. We are uh, involved in a subscriber campaign here. So I want to ask everyone if you would please subscribe to the channel. That keeps us going. That enables me to bring you free YouTube interviews, and I appreciate you subscribing. My guest today is Chris Collins. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Very nice to be here. Very nice.
And Chris, how long and what got you interested in the whole Bigfoot phenomena?
Okay. Let's date back about 12 months. I was going through some health issues, broken kneecap, being 60 years old. Time has taken a toll on this poor old guy. And broken kneecap, sciatic nerve issues, started having other issues going on. So I was basically bedridden for approximately 3 months. And I had gotten to honestly the lowest point in my life. I was miserable, physically, mentally, just totally spent. And I was laying on the couch because I couldn't walk. And I'd been on the couch for like 4 days straight. And I said a prayer and I said, God, I said, I know I'm not perfect. And I said, I probably asked too much of you. I said, but please give me something positive. I need something positive to get me out of this bad space that I'm in. And it was a quick prayer, but it was sincere. And it wasn't 30 minutes after that. And for some reason, I had never done this before, but I clicked on YouTube and all the YouTube videos popped up. So I started just cruising the internet and I started watching one show after the next, after the next. And I happened upon this one gentleman by the name of Tim Deals, and he was doing a podcast with another group at the time. And I started listening to him, and it struck a chord in me, and I mean, really touched me. And I said, after watching about 30 minutes of the show, I had decided I'm going to meet this guy. And I want to just learn more about what he does. And he's a Bigfoot researcher. He lives in Franklin, North Carolina, which is about 3.5 hours away from where I currently live. And when my wife got home from work that afternoon, I said, honey, I said, I don't know what you have to do to put me in touch with this one guy, but please do. Within 5 hours, she had him, she had his email address. They were going back and forth. And we set up a time for him to meet with me. And at the time, my son was graduating college close to where Tim lived. And I said, Tim, is there any way you could possibly just meet me at a central location, and let's have a chat about uh, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, your findings, what you're involved in, and I wanted to learn more. And from that point, I was obsessed, 100%, absolutely obsessed. As soon as I spoke with him, I got this, I got this invigorating feeling uh, about the whole Bigfoot thing. And I had never really followed Bigfoot. I had never really had an interest in it. Yeah, I'd watched a couple of the shows back when I was younger, and I thought I was I was kind of a believer, but not 100%. And I've always been the type of guy, I have to see it myself before I believe it. I'm not going to buy into anybody else's hoopla or whatever you want to describe it as. So after meeting with Tim, he took an hour and a half of his time drove an hour to meet with me, sat down with me, showed me photographs of evidence that they had collected, along with he brought a cast with him. He showed me some hair samples that they had found at one of their research locations. And to make a long story short, it just blew me away. And from that point, I basically dedicated myself to this becoming a passion. And I'm the type of person that if I'm into something, I'm 100% into it. Either I'm all in or I'm all out. So, with my wife's permission, I said, honey, I said, I am going to really invest time and effort and unfortunately money into this because I want to learn more. Not only do I want to learn more for myself, but I wanted to I almost feel like I'm in the middle of fulfilling a prophecy, or not maybe a prophecy, but I made a commitment that day on the couch. And so a year later, not only have I done this every single day, I spend 4 hours every evening either reading or watching videos, talking with other researchers, trying to absorb as much information as possible. And oh my Lord, there's a lot of information out there that can send you down a lot of different paths. Well, I learned really quickly that everyone's information shouldn't always be bought into. I also realized very quickly that taking on this hobby, if you want to call it a hobby, also brings with it a lot of disgruntled looks, naysayers. People have said some things to me that I'm not going to go into about how can I be so dedicated into something that I can't see, feel, and touch. Well, a year later, I've got a little different viewpoint of that to tell those same people. So Tim was nice enough to invite me to a local Bigfoot festival held in Marion, North Carolina. And at that location, not only did I see him, but also the group that he was with, which is Dirty South Squatching. Within that group, there was four main members. Mind you, this is a private group. Bob Trent, Dwight Campbell, Jerry Millwood, and Tim Dills. So I got to chit-chatting with those guys. They saw how serious I was, and fate has it that they invited me on an expedition with them, and I went. I had an absolute blast. We did a nighttime expedition at a semi-local national forest, and I apologize for that. I've got several devices going on here, and after meeting with them, and just the greatest group of guys, honest, sincere. They're no drama. Everything's got to be 100% proof positive before it's talked about, said about, or discussed with anyone. And that's what I really wanted. I'm not into the hoopla. I don't care about making 1,000 friends out here. I'd love to have them, but whoever that friend is going to be someone that takes this as seriously as I do. Luckily, this group does just that. And one expedition led into the next, and then the next, and then the next. And I was about 4 expeditions into this, and they realized, well, we can't get rid of this guy, so I guess we'll make him a member. And that's turned out to be a really positive thing. So that's kind of my background in a nutshell. So I am tied in with Dirty South Squatching. Since that time, my involvement with the group has tripled, and they basically put me through about 9 months of vetting to see if I was honest enough, sincere enough, dedicated enough to do this with them. And me, along with the help from someone else up top, I've hung in there, and I'm not stopping anytime soon. So, remember
Well,
Dirty South Squatching?
let's go back a little ways. I have a couple of questions in here for you.
Sure.
This is a fascinating story and something a little bit different. Most people have been introduced to Bigfoot through the films way back when they were a child, or books they've read from their
Right.
childhood, or just hearing about the Patty film, or something like that. So you have a really interesting story. So the first question I want to ask, and I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. When you were going through that sort of depressed state and really needing something to get you up and going, and you said the prayer,
Yeah.
do you believe that prayer influenced then your finding Tim Hill's group?
Yes, absolutely. And that's Dills, Dills,
Okay.
Dills. And oh, absolutely. I was directed. Uh, it's like there was a path that was laid out for me, and all I had to do is open my heart, my mind, and follow it. And uh, I'm kind of a high vibrational person, uh, so I go off. I really go off of gut instinct and what feels right to me. Uh, Even though some people may look at it and go, "That's a little out in left field," and that's fine. And trust me, I've taken a lot of directions in my previous uh, endeavors that some paid off, some not so much. I think we've all been in that situation, but I go by what my gut tells me. And I also feel like the Lord was holding my hand and still holding my hand to this day. Uh, I'm not a perfect man. I don't claim to be. Uh, but if you ask me a question and you want an honest answer, I'm gonna reply with that. And no, I did. I mean, I saw a couple of the old 70s movies, the Patterson Gimlin film. I saw that. I only saw it recently, though. I saw it when I first started with Tim. And like I say, dealt, I dove into learning as much as I possibly, and I'm still trying to learn uh, people's findings and evidence and their thought processes from the past. And I'm just trying to wrap my head around what I think is believable, what I think is legitimate, and so yes, it's still a step process for me. However, some of the experiences that I've had are I think very very notable. Uh,
A lot of your experience is similar to mine in that I've only had like 2.5 years to be introduced to this subject. I kind of fell into an interview with Scott Nelson, the Sierra Sounds linguist who analyzed those.
right,
And I knew nothing about Bigfoot. I mean, it was there, but it was kind of handed to me. And so, I kind of ran with that, but I'm kind of a newbie in the field too. I had not seen any of the old films or read the books or had much of an interest in it. It just kind of came to me. Another question I have, though, going back to the prayer and finding Tim Dills, what happened with your injury, your knee, and what happened with all of that?
well, oddly enough, the main reason that I was bedridden was two things happened to me at the same time. Not only did I have a broken kneecap, uh, I also had gout in my feet. And I've had little flare-ups of gout, and if you're not familiar with it, it's extremely painful. And what it basically is your body starts producing more cortisol than it can use on a daily basis. And then it's almost like having little spurs uh, on your pressure points of your nerves. So walking was totally out of the question. The other thing that I did, I stopped drinking. Now, I was never a super heavy drinker, and I'd only drink beer, mainly because of my back and my sciatic nerve issues that I was dealing with from years and years of construction. And I'd have a couple of beers in the afternoon or when I was cooking dinner or preparing a meal, which I enjoyed, or a glass of red wine. Oh, I love that. But when I dedicated myself to this, not only did I quit drinking completely, I changed my eating habits. I went on a diet. I lost 42 pounds. My activity levels increased. My enthusiasm increased. Everything about me changed. My wife constantly makes, she'll give me a little pat on the back. She's like, man, it's like you're a new person. And I couldn't, I couldn't agree more. I am a new person. So if I had to, I mean, it was like it was just my time to make a change. And I wholeheartedly went into this, and I didn't really expect it to go anywhere other than maybe just going on an adventure with these guys. But I'm a lifelong hunter. I grew up in the woods. I was hunting, trapping, bow hunting down here in the country of North Carolina. That's where I grew up, very modestly, way off from any city. And so my form of entertainment uh, was me and a gun or a bow and a trap and by myself in the woods. So this was second nature to me, and and I've continued to hunt uh, down through the years. But as soon as I started squatching, I really don't have that passion for hunting anymore. Uh, I see deer all the time on thermal. I see it out there on the trails or in the woods or the forest. And I look at it and now I have an appreciation for life. Let me tell you a little story real quick. Me being the hunter, me being the hunter that I was growing up in the very backwoods country manner that I was raised, I was thinking to myself, okay, if I can just go on a Bigfoot hunt, and if I'm lucky enough to see one, maybe, just maybe, I could get a shot at it or something. And maybe that's my destiny. Well, I learned very quickly that that's not my destiny. And that also shouldn't be the outcome of that creature. So, with with a lot of thought and processing, I absolutely respect these creatures, animals, whatever you'd like to speak of them, and I admire them. Uh, I'm in awe every time I find a footprint, every time we find a tree break or a bow or an X or uh, some type of small rock structure that's, it's not common or it's not humanly done. And we have lots and lots of evidence. So this is the most exciting thing that's ever happened to me outside of marriage and my two kids. Uh, and I'm rocking with it. I'm loving it every day. I look forward to every chance I get. I'll set my thermal up outside. I've got 40 acres behind me, and I'll review tapes that some people would call me crazy, but I'll just sit here and look at a black and white screen for hours, hoping to see something, some type of movement, or to learn something different about how the wind moves a tree and how a tree can 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 be focused upon differently, and it looks like there's a shadow behind it when realistically it's just another structure behind it.
Well, let's go
Uh,
back. Let's go back to the when you got involved with this group, and you said they put you through a lot, kind of an initiation process almost to see if you qualified sort of to be in the seriousness of their research enthusiasm. So tell me some of the challenges that you went through to pass that test.
well, uh, challenges were very subtle. Challenges, and I look back on it now, and they'll ask me questions. They'll show me a photo. They won't give me the answer to that photo. Is it, Chris, does this look realistic? Chris, can you could you see yourself finding this evidence in this location? You know, those types of question and answer sessions, and not like in a formal form, but just in conversation. Or I'll come up and say, hey guys, I saw this, and you know, I watched this on TV or YouTube or this podcast, or I listened to this you know, interview. What do you think of it? And they would just basically look at me and go, tell me what you think. And I'd give them my take on it. And sometimes they would say, that's correct. Other times they'd say, no, that's not correct. And so down through the past year, I've been able to take what I thought was maybe some evidence and discard it immediately for one reason or another. Maybe the footprint that I'm just going to give an example, but maybe I stumbled upon a print and I'll look at it and I'm so excited. You know, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my first print. But I'm also a realist. And the last thing that I wanted to do is go into this group with expectations of me becoming the next latest and greatest, you know, overnight success for finding evidence. However, I've been very successful, more so than most researchers have, and I think it's because God's with me, and He's kind of guiding me. You can take that for what you like, and your listeners can view me however they feel. I don't really care.
Do you think that
But
comes through kind of that gut feeling that you talked about, just knowing where to be at what time and kind of that connection that you have?
absolutely. And I also think that it goes back to all the time I spent in the woods when I was younger. It's like when you're hunting and you're an older adult, you have this seriousness about it. It's like, okay, I'm out here and I'm out here for a purpose. I want to go find the biggest buck that anyone's ever seen, so all my buddies can pat me on the back and my taxidermist can, you know, put me up on his wall for a month so everybody can gawk at the prize that I shot. But when you're younger, you have this innocence, and it's like an open vision that you're not really looking or excuse me, you're not really looking or expecting to find anything. You're just finding it. And what I have found to be the most productive for me is to go in with no expectations whatsoever. One thing that I have started doing, well, actually, I started doing it the first time I went in the woods, and I'll say a prayer. And that prayer basically consists of, please allow me to be an honest person. And if this creature can play upon my honesty and my good intent, maybe something positive will happen from that. And so that's what I try to do on every outing. And I do say that prayer every time. So those little things like that, I believe really add up and make a lot of sense to me. And so yeah, I'm on a journey. I'm on a path. There's a destination point for me somewhere out there, whatever it may be, however it may be. I'm not really sure, but I'm going to put 100% effort into it until I no longer can. And yeah, that's kind of the way I feel about it.
Tell me, on these expeditions that you go on, tell me some of the experiences that you've had. What have you found? What surprised you the most? What did you learn from that?
Oh Lord, let me see. I have found prints. I have found structures. I have found gifting areas. I have been witness to 4 orbs, 3 sightings, but I have seen 4 orbs, 3 that were bright white, and 1 that was a neon satin blue, the most beautiful blue I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not really a blue person. It's not that I look at blue as my favorite color and go, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. But when I saw that blue orb, it radiated. It's like it pulsed. It was just doing like this, and then it was gone. It disappeared. And actually Bob Trent was sitting next to me, and on that blue orb, we had just had 2 rocks thrown at us where we were stationed at. Bob had gotten up turned his headlamp on, because this was a nighttime operation, and we were way in the woods. There was no one around us. It was probably 12:30 at night, and we had been out there since 4 o'clock that afternoon. And so we saw and we heard everything, and we run thermals. I believe we have 5 thermals that we run, which are the AGM Taipans. We also I came up with this little crazy idea of putting them up on a tripod. So and that's turned out to be very, very successful. So I have a 16-foot tripod, and I have an automatic 360-degree gimbal, which moves the camera, and I have a remote control hooked to a laptop or a tablet. And so I can set that camera up away from us up to about 70 feet, take it up in the air 16 feet tall, and I can get a 360-degree view of everything around us, looking down, looking out, and it increases the visibility tenfold from just sitting there with a stationary tripod. And that's really expanded our ability to capture evidence. I hope I answered that.
You did, yeah. So tell me, what all have you captured?
Okay. Thermals. We've got thermal images of creatures, some that are larger in stature. I myself, I haven't physically seen a Bigfoot during daylight hours, but I'm just waiting. I'm waiting patiently. My time will come. In the meantime, I'm focusing my energy on still trying to get that first sighting. So every bit of effort that I'm in the woods is me trying to keep my focus sharp and to sit there we have a little bit of a different approach than some of the other research groups. We like to stay stationary. We set out. We'll go on a daytime walk to an area. We'll put out our audio recorders, which Bob Trent has developed an audio recorder that will record 24/7 for 15 days. And we'll put that audio recorder out, and then we'll come back in 2 weeks and we'll, check our recordings from it. I'm going in a lot of different directions here. There's so much to talk about, but bear with me. And so the one thing, so I've seen orbs, I've seen structures, I've seen scat. We've found prints, we've cast prints. We have hair samples being tested as we speak at North Carolina State University's. They have a Bigfoot project going on there. There's a longer term for it, but basically that's what they're doing is they had allowed certain people to turn over their evidence to them, and now it's in the testing process. We've also had hair samples sent to a lab in Canada just to get an unbiased opinion of the same hair samples. So one of the most shocking things, I've got two other major things that have happened to me. I was screamed at close proximity within 30, 40 yards while I wandered into the woods by myself one time. And I devised this little, I don't know, makeshift way of doing my audio recorder. So what I do is I'll walk about halfway as far as I feel like I'm going to travel on that outing, and I'll find a good location to put my audio recorder at. And I figured if I go about halfway, these audio recorders pick up sound so well that maybe if there was a sound or a scream or a whoop or something, maybe my audio recorder could catch it as I'm coming and going. And so I did that. I was walking, we were actually in a swamp. The water level was really dry last summer in this one area down in South Carolina. And another researcher, Dwight Campbell, was with me. We took off together, and we're going through this dried up swamp. And it was amazing because the water level probably had not been that low in a long, long time. But you could see up on the trees where the water level normally would be at, which was knee high to waist high. And it was almost completely dry, a little bit muggy, a little bit marshy, but perfect for footprints. So I'm out there and I'm all excited, and I'm scanning the ground, and I ran across my first print. Now, mind you, this is me being with the group for only about 5 outings. And these guys are so serious about this. I knew better than to bring up anything that I could not 100% stand behind as evidence. Not skepticism, but it has to be something that looks like what everyone else is calling 100% evidence. So I found that print, and what I do is I always carry a little bit of bright orange flagging tape with me, and that's just from my years of hunting, traveling really deep in the woods and just trying to find my way in and out. So I set my audio recorder down on a log right beside where this footprint was that I found, and I flagged a couple of trees with the orange tape, and then I'd go another 100 yards and I'd put another piece of orange tape, because I'm like, if there's one print here, there's got to be more. So I kept continuing to travel deeper into the swamp. And the other researcher, Dwight, he went, I don't know, maybe another 200-300 yards along with me in the woods. we were separate, mind you. He's always at least 50 yards away from me. I do not like traveling beside another researcher. I want to be on my own, by myself, with a clear mind. I don't want another person interfering with my thought process. And so, as he had turned around and gone back to our base camp, and I'm like, okay, I'm on to something here. I've got a print. I'm going to just walk on and see if I can find anything else. Well, me being new to this, the last thing that I wanted to do was to have these guys consider me a hoaxer. And oh yeah, he says he found this, or he says he found this or that. And so I continue on into the swamp. It's starting to get dark at this point. It's probably 7:30, 7:45. So I walked as far as I felt comfortable going. And trust me, this is a very, very squatchy area, if you want to call it that. Very, very mysterious. Moss on trees, moss on the ground, sticks, debris, that type of thing. And I got to the stopping point and I said, okay, I've gone far enough. I can turn around now, because I had my casting material and everything back at the base camp. So my intentions were to turn around, go back, find my audio recorder, leave the flaggings up where I'd marked the print, travel back to base camp, which was probably a mile, I'm guessing, and get my casting material. Then we were going to come back out there and cast the print. That's what I thought was going to happen. So when I'm at the end of my hike, I said, I hear all these other people doing whoops and doing yells and doing tree knocks. This might be a good place for me to practice. So I found a stick about the size of a baseball bat. I said, perfect. And then there was this large tree there. It was probably 30 inches in diameter. And I said, I'm going to give it a whack. So I whacked it, and the sound wasn't very clear. It's kind of a thud. So I said, well, that sucked. I want to try this again. So I turned the stick around to the heavier side, and I stepped around to the other side of the tree, and I hit it for all I was worth. I mean, I could not have swung this thing any harder. And when it hit, it clack, and I broke the stick. And I'm like, oh, that was a good one. And I said, well, that's enough of that. Maybe I'll just turn around and go back now. And I started to, and I'm like, well, maybe I should try yell. Nobody's here. If I make a fool out of myself, it's just me. And I yelled, and I let out a yeah as loud as I could. And I waited about 30 seconds. Nothing. I heard absolutely nothing except the woods being perfectly quiet. I mean, deafeningly quiet. And I said, okay, well, apparently my first yell wasn't very good either. So I'll try this again. And this time I yelled as hard as I possibly could yell, to the point of where I almost hurt my vocal cords. And I'm standing there, and I'm anticipating some type of sound, some type of noise, some type of reply. And I got none of that. And I just went, okay, well, it's a good walk. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to go back. I'm going to get my print. Everything's great. And just as I was about to turn around, this scream came from the left-hand side of me. This tree was right to my left-hand side of the whole side of my body. The tree was there. And this scream came. And it was not the typical Sasquatch. Ah, this was a rah. And I know I'm doing a terrible job of this, but you'll get the gist of where I'm going with it. And my eyes closed from fright. And the hairs on my see, I'm talking about it right now, and I've got goosebumps in my neck. And it froze me. And I think some people have referred to this as being zapped or whatever, fear, whatever you want to call it. But I was frozen, completely frozen. And I went, okay, I just got yelled at. And there's no one out here there's no access to this swamp except where we drove our vehicle into. There's one way into it. And there's nothing for miles and miles and miles of forest and swamp. And I was there and I went, okay, that was not my other researcher. That was not Dwight. There's no way that was Dwight. Because I've heard Dwight yell before, and he does a great yell. He does a great mimic on whoops. He does a great mimic on yelling, and everything he does a great job of. But I knew the difference between him and what came at me because my chest vibrated and I felt like I couldn't breathe. That's how scared I was. Mind you, I've been growled at by bear. I've seen mountain lion. I used to swim in ponds growing up. That was our pool. I've had water moccasins swim across where I was head level with them. Things like that. I'm not scared by any of that. Honest to God, I'm not. But this thing shook me to my core. And when I was standing there, I had a firearm on me. And I put my hand down on my firearm and I said, okay, I want to take a look at this thing, whatever it is that just made that sound, and I'm going to find it. I said, if I die out here, I die out here. Well, that was my thought process. I took 2 steps. Linda, I turned around. I was like, this. No way. No, there's no way I'm taking another step. I don't even want to see this creature. I don't want to see it. I just want to safely get back to base camp. That's all I want to do. I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not going to do anything else. And luckily, I'd had a conversation with Tim Deals because I'd asked him before we went on any expeditions. I said, when you do see one, I said, what's the advice you give? And he said, the advice that I'm going to give you was handed down to me, and that is you turn around slowly. You do not try to make eye contact. You do not look over your shoulder, and you walk. And you walk very slowly, and you walk in a direct line back to the direction you're going to. And those words echoed in my mind, and I went, okay, Tim, here he goes. I'm trusting you, man. I am trusting you with my life right now, I feel like. But that's what I'm going to do. And I turned around and I still had my hand on my firearm. And I was taking steps out of there. It almost looked like I was drunk because my legs were so weak. I could not walk in a straight line. I was like struggling. I was still shaking. I was still breathing heavy. Now, mind you, this was the summertime. And yeah, it was warm in there. I mean, it was hot. But from where I had already walked to, I was not sweating profusely. It took me exactly 1 hour because on my phone, I saw what time it was. It took me 1 hour to walk a mile back to the base camp. And when I got back to the base camp, Linda, my socks were wet with sweat. I was sweating. My shirt was drenched. My pants were drenched. My socks were drenched. And I came walking back up, and the guys were sitting there. They said, well, how'd your walk around go? I said, it went very well. I said, I think I found a footprint. And they said, did you hear that scream? I said, oh yeah. Oh yeah, I heard that scream. But I didn't want to sound like the little guy who just gets excited about everything. I said, yeah, I got screamed at out there. I said, I thought it was one of y'all at first, and then I realized it wasn't. There's no way. And they said, we caught it on audio here. That was a mile. They caught it on audio. Well, I'd retrieved my recorder and I caught it on audio as well. A little better clarity on it. But that's how loud this was. And Bob said, man, he said, you look hot. You need some water. I drank 4 bottles of water while I was telling him this story. That's how dehydrated I was just from being shaken up so badly. And so that was a pretty life-changing experience for me. No, I did not see it. Maybe next time. But there's no way this sound came out of anything other than a very pissed off creature.
So you think he
And
was wanting you out of his territory there? Do you think he was asking you
absolutely,
or intending to get you to leave?
that's exactly what it was. That was my warning. And it's like I was moving slow, I was moving cautiously. I was not trying to. I detest watching guys who go through the woods and they're like little rabbits. They're just like, oh, over here and over there. Let's go over here. Let's look here. Look at this. I'm the exact opposite. I would rather trace steps in a very deliberate manner and make sure I don't step over something, or because you're going to miss so much evidence when you're trying to travel longer distances. I tell people all the time now, I'm like, get off the path, go into the woods, go. If you've got a state maintained fire road or a trail going in, yeah, there's no trees in your way. You can walk it. You can cover a lot of distance, but you're also walking on a compacted road. So any evidence that you see on that compacted road is going to be minimal. If you take 20 yards to your right or 20 yards to your left of that roadway or that trail or that hiking path or whatever you want to look at it as, and you cut through the woods, you're going to stumble upon a broken tree limb of where something passed through, whether it be a deer, a bear, another animal, or possibly a squatch. And that's what I try to tell people. And they're like, oh, Chris, there's no way. I'm walking from point A to point B, and then I'm turning around coming back. I'm like, well, you're walking by yourself, dude, because I'm not walking with you. I'm going in the woods, and I'll see you in about 4 hours, you know. And so that's my approach to it. And luckily, the guys that I squatch with, they allow me to be me. And they're like, well, Chris, what do you want to do today? And I'm like, oh, I want to do this, this, this. Well, I hardly ever get to the third thing that I wanted to accomplish. But I did accomplish the first two very, very thoroughly. And I'm okay with that. So for some people, I am a perfect example of a newbie with evidence, but this newbie's dedicated to it. I don't even consider it a sport. I look at it as kind of a life journey. I'm making my first steps onto a nice, I hope, long life journey.
Absolutely. So let's go back to these structures because you said you have found structures. Describe those for me.
Okay. Since I was just talking about the swamp, the area where I got screamed at, Bob Trent and I went back down there 2 weeks ago to the swamp area because I wanted to re-step and retrace all my steps and the general path. I couldn't do it exactly. But I said, Bob, I got to go back down there, man. I've got unfinished business. I want to go to that same tree. I want to try to do a tree knock. I want to try to do a yell again. I want to see if I have any luck a second time. He appeased me because we go all over. We have a lot of research areas. We have about 14 different research areas that are in different locations. These guys have been going to these places for over 12 years, almost every week. They know these areas like the back of their hand. And I just kept dropping little subtle hints to Bob. I'm like, hey man, you want to go back down there to the swamp? He's like, no, we got to go over here. We got to go over there. We hadn't hit this place yet. We hadn't hit that place yet. We're making our circles. So I talked him into it, and I was so excited. So we drive all the way down there, and we get there, and as we drive up, we look into the woods. Water level is up knee high. And there's no point in, I wasn't anticipating that at all. Neither was Bob. So we walked out as far as we could. And then I said, well, let's make the best of it. You go to the left, I'll go to the right, and let's just try to see if we can see any prints or structures. 2 weeks ago, I found 6 bowed sapling trees with the end of the tree pushed down into the ground. These are perfect round bows. The trees were approximately 12 feet tall. They were about that thick, about 1.5 to 2 inches in diameter at the base. And I saw one of them, and I yelled over at Bob, and I said, Bob, I found a bow or an arch, however you want to refer to it. And he's like, great, man. He said, make sure you videotape everything, get your size, get your height, get your 3 angles with your camera, which I did. And as I'm standing there, I look over and there's another one. And then there's another one. And then there's another one and another one and another one. There's 5. 5 perfectly bowed saplings that were all in a straight line. You could have walked down through all 5 of them in a straight line, perfect. They were all exactly the same height. They had the same bow on them. It was like a tunnel. They were separated between the 2 or 3, by about, I'd say 10 yards, another 10 yards, another 10 yards, another 10 yards. But it was almost like it was a work of art. It was intentional. It was done intentionally, and but the water level was still marshy there. It was probably 3 inches of mush. I didn't find any good prints that day, but it had rained recently, and so the whole print thing just went to the side on that expedition. So that's the most recent one that I saw. I found X's. We videotaped them. I found numerous breaks. Some of the breaks would come up and start as high as 5 foot tall. I mean, you're going to see breaks in certain areas. I think it depends on whether it's a juvenile. I think the juveniles break the smaller trees up about 2.5, 3 feet tall, 4 feet tall. And then the larger subjects or creatures are going to break it at 6 foot tall, 7 foot tall, and take that tree, and it's going to be larger in diameter. Most of the time, it's going to be up 3, 4, 5 inches in thickness at the break point. I'm a woodsman, and there's not a human that I know of that can grab a 4-inch thick tree that's at 6 feet and break it and twist it. And we've got video footage of that. They're not just 1 or 2, but numerous trees. Now, mind you, the group that I'm with, they have thousands of hours invested in audio, in video, and their evidence files are huge. So my hat's off to Bob Trent. He's an audio expert. Dwight Campbell, his expertise comes in the video side of it. And I think one of the reasons that they took me under their wing is because I'm basically not scared of anything. So I'll put myself in a dangerous or a more dangerous situation than a lot of people will, because I've never been afraid to die. If it's my time, it's my time. But I'm going to step into those woods with a just veracity and a tenacious attitude. I want to utilize whatever time I have to the best of my advantage. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna get a swallow of water.
Sure, absolutely. Well, it sounds like you've had some interesting experiences, and it does seem like it was very guided. You're in the right group, the right people, doing some heavy duty things out there in the woods. I really appreciate you telling me your
Sure.
story. It's absolutely fascinating. I'm going to go ahead and end our interview today. I want to thank you for coming
Okay.
on, and I will let you know when this comes out.
Absolute. Could I do one more thing?
Absolutely, yes.
Our channel will be airing in 2 weeks, and it's going to be called Sasquatch Recon. So in case you have anyone out there who has a more interest in some of what I have to offer and what Bob and Dwight and Tim Dills and Jerry Millwood have to offer, please check us out on YouTube.
Absolutely, yes. I hope everyone goes and watches this, and it's going to be on YouTube. And tell us the name again.
Sasquatch Recon,
Recon.
short for reconnaissance.
Okay, well, great title. Thank you so much. We will let you know when this comes out. And I want to tell the audience, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, keep this channel going.